Jonathan Fors, in 1 to 2 sentences, who are you?
I am a creative individual who is super scared of living a normal life, and I do everything in my power to not live a normal life.
And how do you make money online?
Currently, I'm a marketer for a medtech startup, so I'm employed at the company and get a salary.
Nice. And what's your favorite thing about digital nomading?
My favorite thing is the freedom, being able to go wherever you want, whenever you want, and not have to think about, I have to take holidays off, I have to coordinate with this and that. You can just go whenever.
Where are you now, and what are your 2 to 3 favorite cities in the world?
I'm in France right now, Lyon. I like this place, but I wouldn't call it a favorite city. So Reykjavik in Iceland is definitely a favorite. And I think currently we're looking at a trip to Rhodes in Greece. So I'm gonna say Rhodes. And for a third one, I actually don't know. That's to be discovered.
All right. And what's your best concise advice for aspiring digital nomads?
To just go for it, to not think too much, just learn new skills and skills that you know can be applied to online related topics and jobs. To go for it, learn new things.
And what small change has made a big difference in your life?
Habits, definitely. I'm a big habits person. I run every single day, every morning, have been for the past 3 years. And I think that is one thing that definitely keeps me going. Because if I start the day and on top, then, the rest of the day kind of continues in the same way. So running, I would say, every day.
And what's your favorite book?
I don't read books, funnily enough. So I wouldn't know. But the favorite podcast, I guess, is equivalent for people who don't read, is The Future with Christo. He is a designer, I guess. He talks to other designers and aspiring people who want to work in the creative industry.
Okay, we're gonna come back to that later in the interview because I want to hear more about the take of I don't read books, because it's obviously not a common statement, but I'm interested to hear about it.
Yeah.
Last one in the rapid fire is, if you had 20 seconds to live, what message would you share with the world?
Stop giving a shit about others and anything around you. Just do what feels right to you when it feels right to you, and everything else just doesn't matter.
Well, I appreciate you being on here. I want to start our main part of the interview with just an overview of your digital nomad journey. For anyone who knows nothing about you, when did you start? Where have you gone? What's the high level overview?
Since I knew I had all these skills from previous projects, I felt confident that I was gonna be able to land a new job, find a place that I would fit in, that would pay me a salary that I would be able to live on and work remotely. So I had that confidence, and really it's as simple as I talked to my girlfriend a few times before I decided to actually go for it. I talked a lot to her, joking around, oh, what if I just quit my job and sold my apartment and just left next month? Wouldn't that be crazy? And the more we talked about it and the more I said it, the more real it became. I realized at some point, well, yes, what if it did happen? It could happen. All I have to do is, hello boss, I am quitting my job. And then of course there's more work to come after that. But so I came to that conclusion after a while. It really is simple. It really is black and white. I did just that. One day after work, I remember it very well. I had a great boss, really liked her. She was probably the best boss I've had before my current job. And so we had great communication. She knew that I had these thoughts of going places. But one day after work, I texted her saying, hey, are you free? Can I call you? And she said, yeah, of course. So I called her and said, or I think she kind of knew what was coming, but I said that, so I'm giving my notice, I'm quitting. She was like, okay, yeah, I kind of knew that, I could figure it out. So I had 1 month. It wasn't really a big deal. She was happy, or happy for me, not very good for the store because we were understaffed at the time. So 1 month I had left at this job. After that time, or during that time, I called up my landlord to quit the rent on my apartment at the time. It was a 3 months notice for that apartment. but I knew that I didn't actually have to stay in the apartment for 3 months. As long as I just paid the rent for 3 months, it was okay. That was that really. And as soon as I quitting my job didn't really make it real what I was doing, because at the time I think I was just kind of in some mist of like, oh, what am I actually doing? Like, what is happening right now? I don't think I understood what was fully going on. But when I quit my apartment and got the confirmation in my email inbox, I realized, oh shit, I'm without an apartment in 3 months. Like, what am I gonna do? So I immediately started selling all my stuff, and I love tech. I buy a lot of things. I like TV, computers, Apple TV, all the good stuff. But I had to get rid of it, of course. And that was a painful but freeing experience. I love the feeling of not owning a lot. It's really a good, it feels good to not own a lot. Maybe it sounds funny, but I guess it's the minimalistic life and not having all the burden. I remember when I sold all my stuff, it really felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, truly. But so I sold all my stuff. I think a week or 2 weeks after my final day at a job tech store, that is when my flight left from Sweden to France. And France was always kind of the destination I was gonna go to. Like, it wasn't really a question because my girlfriend was or is living here. So if I'm gonna start somewhere, it makes a lot of sense to stay with my girlfriend. And so of course there was a lot of talking with my family, and like it's my parents are happy for me, of course, but each time I visit them and leave, they're very sad. But so I jumped on the plane with nothing lined up, no income source of any kind, and I hadn't actually started looking for jobs when I was on the flight even. I just took a one-way flight to a country with nothing lined up. And so I moved in with my girlfriend in her former apartment, not the current one we're in right now, but at the time. And honestly, I didn't have a proper, like a made up setup with the steps and everything, because I knew I already had the skills necessary to at least land like a very simple baseline job that was gonna be remote. So I felt confident in my skills. I just didn't know if I was gonna be able to find whoever wanted to or whoever needed my skills, because of course I'm unique in my own way, and the company must be looking for my kind of uniqueness. So I applied to everything. I remember like customer service related jobs. I applied to graphic design jobs. I applied to, I think, podcast editor at some time. I applied to basically every single job that I knew was related to skills that I had. Most of the time, there was no response. I think I didn't count. I wish I did, but I have no clue how many jobs I applied to. I just know that it was a lot. And at least like 60-70% didn't even respond to me. And then there was the rest of the 30% or 28% responded but said, no thank you, we choose another person. But then there was these like 2-3% that actually said, oh hello, you seem interesting, I want an interview with you. And of course I was super happy each time, like, oh, they want an interview with me, like this is gonna be my dream come true. And so I go on these interviews. It seems to be going good. The funny thing is that I've never actually had a job, not to like seem better than anyone else, but I've never had an interview where I feel like I didn't like make a good impression. Maybe it's just me living in my own little bubble. But long story short, they all came back and said, unfortunately, we are going to go with another candidate. And of course, I was like, oh, not again. Like this time, this job too. How am I gonna find a job? They all want to talk to me, but no one actually wants to pay me. So I was like, okay, well, let's continue applying for jobs. And that's what I did. I continued. And eventually, after, like I said before, 4 months of applying to probably hundreds of jobs, this company I'm working for right now, Hälsa Hemma, came back to me and said, hi, we want an interview. And once again, I was overjoyed. Like, oh, they want an interview with me. It seems like a great company. It's Swedish too. Like, I can speak my native tongue and everything and still work remotely. Dream come true, and doing a good deed, because it's like a medical company, so we help people. I can feel good about myself. It's not just marketing for the money. So we had the interview. Everything felt good. Had a few, I think 3 or 4 interviews in total. But yeah, they said they wanted me. They said, here's the contract, check it out, sign it if it feels good, and let me know what you think. Of course, I read through it, looked for any red flags, and signed it. And at the time I signed it, and 2 weeks later or 1 week later, I don't remember, I started. Yeah, it's a long story, but I don't know if I touched on what you actually wanted me to.
Yeah, you got it. One of the things that really sticks out to me from your story is the volume of applying. I think that's really interesting, and I think it's an underappreciated aspect of the job search, which is just spending a huge amount of time searching for jobs. When I think about my own job searches in the past, I don't know that I necessarily applied to a really high volume of roles, but I spent, like, out of college, I landed a job at this company called DoorDash, and I spent probably like 40 to 50 hours like looking at job roles and just like and going through job postings, and that helped me to really figure out what are the roles that I really fit well in. And I stumbled across a job posting that I'm also a generalist, so I identify with what you're saying, and as a generalist, trying to fit yourself into very specific kind of narrow job roles can be challenging. And I found just from putting a huge amount of time into it, I was able to find roles that I felt like described me. And so I appreciate and want to emphasize that, yeah, for anyone who's listening who wants to get a remote job, like, put in the time. Spend a lot of time looking at jobs, figuring out what do I fit with, and spend a lot of time applying. I've been TikToking, and I get comments where people are like, oh, where can I find remote jobs? And it's not that. I have a remote job board, which I'll plug, which is called Remote Work Hub. But it's not that. You can Google remote jobs, and there's a million remote jobs. So all you have to do is Google, and then there's literally so many. It's just a matter of how much time do you have to go through and apply to jobs.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I noticed though when applying to your jobs or looking for a job was that a lot of jobs are only, at least on the websites that I found, was only in the US, like remote in the US. So that was a bummer for me who's in Europe. But I think when I apply to jobs, or really in anything I do, I know that I like, no one cares about me. Like, I'm just another person among millions and millions of other people who know what I do, can talk the way I do and everything. So I know that I guess what it comes down to is a sense of entitlement, I think, from a lot of people who apply to 10 jobs, 20 jobs, maybe even 50 jobs, and then give up and say like, oh, it's not possible, I'm not good enough or whatever. So to think that I would just have to like raise my hand and say, hello, please hire me, hundreds of companies would come running. It's a false view of how the world works. So you have to, regardless of what you want to do and what you want to learn and anything, you have to put in the work. Like I like using running as an example for a lot of things. Like I have been running for 3 years now straight, every single day, only a few days off here and there. But when I started, when I was younger, I was slightly overweight, or quite chubby and overweight. And the first time I did go out running was because my mom asked me to, and I was like, I don't want to, like, I'd rather sit here and play League of Legends. Still do, really great game. I still did, because my whole family, or my parents at least, loves working out and they're very active and stuff. But so I went and I did it, and it felt so shitty, but because I was like heavy, I hadn't run ever before, it was so hard, felt horrible. Despite that, I did it another time. I don't remember why I did it, but regardless, I did do it again. and then again and again and again and again. And eventually it became easier, and it started to actually feel good for me too. It wasn't just this chore to like take care of my body or whatever. And so my point is that you have to put in the work, because now I run marathons like it's just another day. And that's not like me bragging or anything. That's just the way it is now, because I run a lot. So I've become good at running. And other people do other things a lot, and they are very good at whatever that thing is. And yeah, whatever you want to achieve doesn't come without the work.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that comes through with your story, both on the job hunt side, on the habit side, which I love. I love the habits thing of running every day and just getting the motor going, so to speak. I want to touch on your thoughts on education in universities. My feeling from our previous conversations that we're pretty aligned with having, I guess, a negative view on universities and a positive view on self-education. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this topic.
Absolutely. It's a passion topic of mine. I hate universities, traditional universities, with a passion. It's everything I despise. So, to put it shortly, I've studied twice at two different universities for two different educations. First time was a preschool teacher, and the second time was for PR and communication. And the first time around, I dropped out, but not because I felt like it was a bad school, more because it was just not something was a subject that I wasn't interested in. The second time around, however, when I was studying PR and communication, it was a topic that I was, and still am, very interested in. It's related to marketing and everything. However, so in Sweden, education is free, or free, you pay taxes, but it's kind of free. And the education is free, but in order to be able to take the education, you have to have some kind of income to pay rent and food and to live a life. So I was taking on student loans to pay rent and everything. 1,000 euros in loans every month to be able to study this thing. And so I bought books, I went to every class, I was a good student, I did everything you're supposed to. But I realized that when I was reading the books and then went to the class where the teachers were doing a presentation on whatever new subject, I realized that they're saying the same thing as what is in the books. I came to the conclusion, why don't I just read the book? And skip the whole taking on student loan part. Why don't I just buy the book for 50 euros and be done with it? That's really what made me realize how education is so faulty. And on top of that, everything they were teaching, sure, I guess there's a need for laying a foundation, but everything they were teaching I felt was out of date since 10 years back. And I don't know how it is in other countries, but most of the time, in order for something to end up in a book for education that is used in universities, usually the time between someone comes up with a theory or something new comes up and it's ending up in that book usually takes 10 years. I'm learning something that is 10 years old. What happened in between that? I have no clue. But still, I'm paying good amounts of money to be able for them to teach me that. And also, it's worth mentioning Gary Vee is a good big inspiration of mine, as well as other people, I assume. Being in this situation myself and listening to people like him who say that it's possible to do it yourself, and me realizing that yes, it is possible to do it myself, I thought to myself, well, why don't I just do it myself? Why don't I just drop out of this university too and teach whatever skills is necessary for me to teach myself? And really, I think, especially in the age and the time we live in right now, so many jobs and so many even high-level jobs, you don't necessarily need a formal education. What you need are skills. What you need is knowledge. of the subject at hand, but you don't need to acquire it through the traditional university way. So like knowledge comes from a lot of sources, and then of course there are like doctor jobs and like things that you actually need a paper to say like I can remove a heart from a body and not kill it. Tech related jobs like marketing and whatever other jobs there are, like developers and etc. You don't need that paper to say that you can do something. What you need is to be able to prove it. Hundreds, thousands probably different ways to prove that you know something. So really think outside the box. Like don't get stuck in this traditional way. It's so out of date. It makes me so annoyed. And it's really a shame because people take on loans. Like people spend years and take on massive loans, especially in, I guess, other countries that don't have the same kind of free education as Sweden does. And then they maybe change their mind and like, oh, I didn't actually want to do this, but now I have these loans and I have to pay it off and etc. etc. So I kind of have to stay in this path. If you don't go the traditional way and don't take on these loans, you're more free. You're more able to change your mind. And like I could change my mind tomorrow or today, right now even. It's like, oh no, I want to, I don't know what, but something else. I don't want to do marketing anymore. And that would be okay because actually I do have loans because I did study for a while, but I don't have as much loans as I would have had. Yeah, so it's freedom, more freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the way the world is shifting, both in terms of a lot of things becoming very skill-based, like a lot of jobs becoming very skill-based, engineering, design, marketing, and that in combination with how fast things are changing. Like we're on this exponential curve where technology and the world are changing faster and faster and faster. And to your point, schools are teaching old concepts. Like I remember I took a marketing class. I love marketing, as you also are interested in marketing. I love marketing. I took a marketing class. I went to University of Southern California in the US, which costs like $50,000 US a year or something. I took a marketing class and the professor was teaching. I remember there was a segment where they were talking about like how to allocate international TV advertising spend for like a major Fortune 100 company. We were looking at a case study at Procter & Gamble. And I remember sitting there, and the professor was ex-Procter & Gamble. I remember sitting there and I was like, this isn't marketing. This is a corporate marketing class. And like, we should be running social media ads, and we should be setting up like a drop shipping store and running ads and like, and doing influencer marketing. Or it was just sitting there in that class, I was like, oh my God, this is not why I love marketing. Like, I don't want to be a corporate marketer. Like, I don't want to be a corporate slave for Procter & Gamble. I want to like do marketing and build things. And I think the path to having a, not even just like in entrepreneurship, because I think with entrepreneurship, there's no rules basically, but with getting a job, there are more rules and there are more, if you go down a path that people relate to and that people understand, it's easier to slot into early jobs. But I think that you can bypass the whole need for a credibility stamp from a university if you just build skills. And you can, especially startups, I feel like understand that it's not about degrees. It's about like, what can you do to help my company like survive and thrive? And if you nail that, then everything else is gravy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like people are stuck in thinking in old patterns. Like, and to your point too, like marketing especially, something that evolves like by the day, by the week. Like there could be a new platform coming up and it would take 10 years for people to even mention it in whatever book in the future at the university. Yeah, you have to stay on top of the curve and like know what is happening in your industry and make sure that you develop skills related to it. Yeah. It's people. It's not people. I think people confuse education and knowledge, like skills. Education and skills, I guess is a better word. Like skills can come from any kind of source. You can develop skills from like us talking right now. This is my actually very first time being on the other end of an interview. interviewed a lot of other people, but I've never been interviewed myself. Like, I'm developing a skill right now to be able to talk about myself, and you're honing your skill on being able to interview me and other people. So like, we are teaching ourselves skills right now, and a university maybe would be able to teach that, I don't know, but you would pay a lot for it. Which one do you choose? The free one or the one you pay 50,000 for?
Well, I think what you highlighted is the difference between learning by doing, which we're doing right now, which is how my favorite way to learn. And a lot of university learning is learning in theory. It's like learning by theory and learning by textbook. And especially as we talk about like specific skills, interviewing, like podcasting, marketing, like doing obviously is the way you're going to learn in the rapidly changing world. Well, I think let's wrap up there. I appreciate your time. This has been fun. And for anyone listening who wants to follow your journey or get in touch with you, are there any websites or social media that you want to plug?
Yes, of course. I have a personal website where you can find everything. I write a lot of articles on Medium. I am in the process, like I said, of starting up my podcast that I used to be more active on, but kind of fell off. So you can find everything on my own website, which is called forsjonathan.com. forsjonathan.com. I'm sure you can link it somewhere.
This is F-O-S-H or F-O-R-S?
FORSJONATHAN.com.
Got it. The pronunciation is not the American pronunciation I'm used to. So sorry if I butchered your last name earlier.
It's okay. Most people actually call me John for some reason. I guess it's easier maybe to say than Jonathan.
Well, people can find you there, and thanks for being on here. Appreciate it.